One day, walking through the moors of Ireland, you stop to take a rest on a flat rock that you found, and something catches your eye. A glint of metal a short ways up ahead seemingly beckons you to come closer. As you make your way to the shiny metallic object, you see it's a gold coin. And as you uncover the coin from the ground, you find another coin, and another. And eventually you find a whole pot of gold. Bewildered as to where this gold came from, you look around and all you can see is a set of teeny tiny footprints leading away from the stash. You just found the fabled pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. A leprechaun's pot of gold. So what exactly is a leprechaun, and how do they become one of Ireland's most treasured folklore? Hi, I'm Jax, and this is Morbidly Macabre, the show where I talk about morbid history, true crime, cryptids, and other spooky topics that might catch my interest. About 2 weeks ago, we did a video on St. Patrick's Day, and the topic of leprechauns came up, and I got a little curious as to what exactly a leprechaun is. Today's episode is going to be a bit of a lighter one before we get back into some truly dark and morbid topics. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting the like button, and if you want to see more from me, please consider hitting the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to get updates every time I post a new video. If you want to see more from me in an unscripted setting, I do stream over on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week. Please consider checking me out as we have a lot of fun there. With that being said, let's get back into the video. So what exactly is a leprechaun? Leprechauns are a type of fairy or goblin who have been a part of Celtic oral tradition. Stories of the leprechaun were first told around the 8th century, and they are often described as tiny elderly men who dress in green or red with bright red hair, and they cobble shoes. They are trickster fairies who are known to hide gold at the end of rainbows, and legend says if you catch one, it will grant you 3 wishes. Leprechauns are often confused with their cousins, the Cluricauns, who also wore red and loved smoking, drinking, and fighting. They often are found in the cellars of bars and breweries and are very lazy. Where the leprechaun is hard-working creatures, they are well known for their shoes and their craftsmanship. They are one of the only fae creatures to have a trade, and it's said if you hear, it's a leprechaun working on a pair of shoes. And because there's a lot of money in cobbling, they also tend to have a lot of gold, but we'll get to that later. Back to their shoes. Leprechauns are said to run and dance so much that they constantly wear out their shoes. W.B. Yeats, a famous Irish writer, once said because of their love of dancing, they will constantly need shoes. And he tells the story of a woman who ran off with the fairies only to come back 7 years later missing all of her toes because she danced so much that her toes fell off. It makes me wonder, if leprechauns were such good cobblers, why couldn't they keep her in shoes? Maybe her feet were too big, or could it be the fact that there were no female leprechauns? There is no evidence of a female leprechaun. As far as the old folkloric books knew, the only leprechauns that existed were male leprechauns. One theory as to why the leprechauns haven't died out is that they were once traditional fairy creatures and through one thing or another were exiled from the fae and became this little thing called a leprechaun. It was only the men. Maybe it's because they had bright red hair. Maybe it's because they were just way too mischievous to be a traditional fairy. But that's just a theory as to why leprechauns were only men. Another reason is maybe they're immortal creatures and they don't die and they just happen to all be men. But why the big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? There are several reasons and variations as to why the gold. First, there's the idea that he made this gold from his job being a cobbler, and this is the money that he makes from his job. Second, there's the idea that he finds gold coins in the ground and hoards them all together in his pot under the rainbow. But never mind the fact that rainbows don't have a definite start or stop point, and that they are just refracted light, and that they don't stay in one place. Let's just go with it. There's also the idea that he is the banker of the Fae world, and he conceals all of the gold of the Fae and all of the wealth of the Fae at this rainbow. If you can catch a leprechaun and keep your eye on him the whole time, you can get his gold. But they are quite mischievous fairies. They often play on the greed of the humans who capture them and run off with their gold because that human took their eyes off of them for a second. Now, it doesn't feel right to discuss leprechauns without discussing a possible Irish deity that they were likely named after. Luke, the god of sun and arts and crafts, was the warrior ruler of ancient Ireland, and when Christianity came to Ireland, he was pushed out and diminished. And as his worship was phased out, and Christianity was brought to the Irish, thanks to St. Patrick, his stature was also shrunk, and he became known as Luke Cromain, or Stooping Luke. And he lived in the Sidhe with the other gods of that time who were forgotten. Leprechauns are a very old, but still relatively well-known cryptid, if you will. They haven't really been proven, along with fairies and sprites and other small mythical creatures, but why have they stuck around so long in the collective consciousness? Well, most likely it has something to do with T. Crofton Crocker, who wrote the book Fairy Legends and Traditions of the South of Ireland, which was published in 1825. He really pushed the leprechauns to the forefront of Irish mythology. Other writers during this time took the idea of the leprechaun and just kind of ran with it. In 1968, Finian's Rainbow, featuring Fred Astaire, and the 1959 Disney movie Darby O'Gill and the Little People really pushed it farther into the American mind. However, with a lot of things, the leprechaun has become kind of an offensive stereotype of the Irish people, be it it's short, white, red hair, and hey, that's your traditional Irish person. Notre Dame has the Fighting Irish as their mascot, which after this video, it's definitely not a leprechaun because the leprechauns don't fight, but the cluricauns do. But it can be a racist term towards the Irish people, and with the United States having its anti-Irish sentiment back in the 18 and early 1900s, I'm not that surprised that it was turned into something racist when it's supposed to be something so beloved. The leprechaun has become a symbol for Ireland, a source of Irish pride, so much so that there are leprechaun searches in County Louth, and there is a protected area near Carlingford designated for protection because of its population of leprechauns. It's now covered by the European habitats. So next time you're in Ireland, keep an eye out and you might see a leprechaun. But if you do, don't look away and you may find his pot of gold. Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider hitting the like button. And if you want to see more from me on this channel, please consider hitting the subscribe and the bell notification icon. And if you want to see more from me in general, I do stream over on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week, and we play video games there. It is definitely unscripted, and we have a lot of fun. But thank you all so much for joining me again today, and thank you so much for your time. I will have another video out this week as well. And as always, stay curious. Goodbye.